Say it was a targeted hit. Time will tell. I hope there isn't any foul play on Rock's side.
Chrisean Rock is now facing a life sentence for murder for hire after setting up her own baby dad that she didn't want the world to know about. And what I'm about to reveal in this video will leave you shocked.
Yeah, Junior right here, weird as a bitch. You weird as shit. You weird as shit. You weird as shit, ain't nobody stalking.
Behind all the toxic relationship content and viral moments, Chrisean was allegedly orchestrating something far more sinister. A calculated murder for hire plot against the real father of her son that ultimately led to a man's death. Federal agents tapping phones, naming suspects, and building a case that could send multiple people to prison for life. The shocking truth behind what brought federal law enforcement to her door is darker and more calculated than anyone imagined. And we're about to reveal it all, including how her own sister just exposed the deadly lengths she went to keep her lies intact, how the FBI is building a conspiracy case, and why this murder might have been planned months in advance. Yo, what's good, fam? We about to dive deep into some real street drama mixed with federal investigations, family betrayal, and industry corruption that's been shaking up the hip-hop community. This ain't just entertainment anymore. This is about murder, conspiracy, organized crime, and a child who may never know his real father because someone wanted to play God with his identity for profit. Now, before we get into this wild ride, let me keep it 100 with y'all. The FBI has officially launched a homicide investigation with Chrisean Rock, named as a primary suspect in the murder of rder, the man who claimed to be Junior's real father and died fighting for that recognition. But yo, we about to separate the facts from the fiction, the real from the fake, because this story goes way deeper than just baby mama drama and involves federal crimes, interstate conspiracy, and what prosecutors believe was a premeditated execution. February 3rd, 2025, at exactly 7:10 p.m. That's the date and time that changed everything and potentially sealed Chrisean Rock's fate forever. Ronnie Doe, a 24-year-old man from Baltimore who had been publicly fighting for paternity rights, was gunned down outside his home in what police immediately classified as a targeted incident and not a random act of violence. This man, who had been demanding DNA tests and calling out lies, was silenced just days before he was supposed to get the proof that would expose a conspiracy that goes to the very top of the entertainment industry. Now, hold up before y'all start thinking this is just another toxic celebrity situation gone wrong. We're talking about federal agents conducting wiretaps, interstate conspiracy charges, potential RICO violations, and a murder for hire plot that could involve multiple conspirators across different states. But here's where it gets real spicy. The evidence trail leads directly back to the woman who built her entire career, her entire identity, and her entire income stream off being a baby mama to the wrong man. And she apparently was willing to kill to keep that lie alive. So check it. Let's go back to where this whole deadly deception started, because understanding the beginning is crucial to understanding why it ended in murder. Chrisean Rock, a young woman from Baltimore with big dreams and questionable judgment, gets signed to Blueface record label around 2021. She wasn't famous. She wasn't established. She didn't have any real talent that anyone could identify. She was just hungry for success and willing to do whatever it took to get it, no matter the cost. Now, in the hood and in the industry, we know how these boss-employee relationships usually work, especially when there's a significant power imbalance. Blueface had all the power. Financial control over her career, professional connections she needed, social media platform she craved, and the fame she desperately wanted. Meanwhile, Chrisean was completely dependent on him for everything. Her income, her housing, her career prospects, even her public identity. That type of setup creates desperation, and desperate people do desperate things. Chrisean quickly realized that her value to Blueface wasn't necessarily her music or her talent. It was her willingness to be part of his content creation, to be the drama that kept people watching, to be the chaos that generated views and money. But here's where the story gets deeper than just a problematic work relationship that crossed professional boundaries. Their business arrangement quickly became personal, but not in a healthy, loving way. Instead, they started this public on and off toxic cycle that would play out in real time for millions of followers to consume like entertainment. But what people didn't know is that Chrisean had someone else in her life. Someone who actually loved her for who she was, not what she could do for his brand. Even from the beginning, there were signs that this relationship was built on deception and manipulation. Chrisean was constantly trying to prove her loyalty to Blueface, constantly trying to secure her position, constantly fighting other women for his attention. That's not the behavior of someone who's secure in their relationship. That's the behavior of someone who knows they're living a lie. Let me break down for y'all who Ronnie Doe really was, because his story is the heart of this entire tragedy, and understanding him is crucial to understanding why he had to die.
Worship my little nigga like that. I don't know, it would have been better off having a baby with him.
Ronnie wasn't in the industry. He wasn't chasing clout. He wasn't trying to get famous off Chrisean's name or ride her coattails to success. He was a real dude from Baltimore who genuinely loved this girl and was willing to sacrifice everything for her. His freedom, his reputation, and ultimately his life. According to multiple sources, including Chrisean's own family members who knew the real situation, Ronnie was the authentic boyfriend, the one who was there when the cameras weren't rolling. While she was performing this toxic relationship with Blueface for public consumption and social media content, she was going home to Ronnie. While she was creating drama and chaos for views and money, Ronnie was the one actually supporting her emotionally, financially when he could, and genuinely caring about her well-being. Chrisean's sister revealed something that completely changes the narrative and shows the depth of Ronnie's commitment. That was my brother-in-law, and he still is. He will love you and my nephew, and Ronnie ain't going to play with him. He already went to jail for you once. Let that sink in for a minute. This man had already proven his loyalty by catching a case to protect Chrisean. He had already sacrificed his freedom for her, and she repaid that loyalty with deception and ultimately allegedly murder. But here's the real kicker though. When we look at the timeline of Chrisean's relationship with both men, it becomes clear that Ronnie was the consistent presence while Blueface was the public performance. During the periods when Chrisean and Blueface were off in their toxic cycle, she wasn't alone. She was with Ronnie, building a real relationship based on genuine connection rather than content creation. When Chrisean got pregnant, the timeline didn't match up with her Blueface narrative. And Ronnie was not only aware of this discrepancy, but had receipts to prove it. Ronnie pointed this out publicly multiple times, saying cash was back and forth from LA to Baltimore during the conception period. He had dates. He had evidence. He had witnesses who could confirm that Junior was conceived during one of Chrisean's trips back home to Baltimore. Back to him. Now, this is where we got to address something that still shocks people and shows the level of Chrisean's prioritization of fame over family. Throughout her pregnancy, while carrying what she knew was Ronnie's child, Chrisean was drinking alcohol and smoking, seeming to not care about the baby's health or development. She was more focused on maintaining her toxic relationship with Blueface for content creation and public consumption than protecting the innocent life she was carrying. This wasn't just occasional poor judgment. This was a consistent pattern of prioritizing her public image and career over her unborn child's health. She was going to parties, getting into physical fights, consuming substances, and living like she wasn't carrying a baby who would suffer the consequences of her choices for the rest of his life. When Junior was born, it was immediately clear that something was wrong with the baby. He had health issues that could have been prevented with proper prenatal care, medical supervision, and responsible behavior during pregnancy. But instead of taking responsibility for the choices that led to these complications, Chrisean doubled down on her lie about paternity. Because admitting Ronnie was the father would have destroyed her entire public persona and income stream. The real tea that got everybody shook was understanding the full scope of why Chrisean was so desperate to make Blueface the father. And it goes way beyond just wanting to be with a celebrity. Ronnie was a regular dude from Baltimore. No money, no fame, no platform. No ability to provide the lifestyle Chrisean wanted or the financial security she craved. Blueface represented not just celebrity status, but guaranteed income through child support, ongoing relevance in the industry, and a permanent connection to wealth and fame. But here's where it gets interesting and where the deception starts to unravel. That first DNA test that supposedly proved Blueface was the father was suspicious from the very beginning. And multiple people in the industry noted the irregularities. The test allegedly came in an unsealed envelope. The paperwork looked tampered with and beat up, and it didn't follow standard laboratory protocols that legitimate paternity tests require. Even Blueface himself admitted he had serious concerns about the test legitimacy from the beginning. In recent tweets that have now become evidence in the federal investigation, he revealed, "I knew there was something off. I didn't think that was my baby. That DNA test was a little weird. When I read it, it seemed fake. I had no control over the test, so even the alleged father knew something wasn't right. But he went along with the deception for his own reasons." The involvement of Zeus Network in presenting this potentially fraudulent DNA test as entertainment content raises serious questions about the platform's role in perpetuating deception. When your paternity test becomes a TV show plot point rather than a legitimate medical procedure, that's when you know the entire situation has crossed from personal drama into orchestrated fraud. Meanwhile, Ronnie was fighting for his parental rights the only way he knew how. Publicly, persistently, and with genuine emotion that couldn't be faked. He was posting on social media, going live on various platforms, and literally begging for a chance to prove paternity through legitimate testing. His posts included side-by-side pictures comparing Junior to himself as a child, and the resemblance was so undeniable that even strangers were commenting on the obvious family connection. Ronnie's live streams were absolutely heartbreaking to watch and showed a man who was genuinely suffering from being denied his child. He would say things like, "All I'm asking is for us to hold adults accountable. If Junior is not my son, I deserve to have that proven to me through a DNA test. If Junior is not my son, the DNA test will prove that. Right or wrong, right? Any father on here, any real man, any father would want to make things right and would want to know if that's his child." This was a man desperate to be acknowledged as a father, not someone seeking clout or attention. As Ronnie became more vocal about paternity and more insistent on getting the truth, the pressure on Chrisean increased dramatically. She started making posts on social media that many people now interpret as direct threats against anyone who challenged her narrative. She wrote, "Everyone that thinks they can speak on my son always lose their life. I wonder why they keep going. When they go to see the end result of trying to harm me for your personal clout and gain, the pattern of consequences. Let that sink in for a minute." She's basically saying publicly that anyone who challenges her story about Junior faces serious consequences, potentially deadly ones. And when you look at what happened to people who questioned her narrative, the pattern becomes clear and terrifying. First, Blueface got locked up for 2 years after questioning the paternity and demanding accountability. Now, Ronnie is dead after demanding a DNA test and calling out the lies. That's not a coincidence. That's a pattern of eliminating threats to her deception. February 3rd, 2025, at approximately 7:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's when everything changed forever and when Chrisean Rock's alleged conspiracy allegedly reached its deadly conclusion. Officers from the Anne Arundel County Police Department responded to reports of multiple gunshots in the area of Sea Pine Circle in southern Maryland, a quiet residential neighborhood where families thought they were safe from this type of violence. When officers arrived at the scene, they found Ronnie Doe lying on the ground in front of his home, his own home, his safe space, his sanctuary with apparent gunshot wounds. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. This wasn't a random act of violence. This wasn't a case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. This was an execution carried out at his residence, suggesting the killers knew his address, his routine, and his movements. The Anne Arundel County Police immediately classified this as a homicide and made a crucial determination that would later bring in federal authorities. Their preliminary investigation indicated this was a targeted incident and not a random act of violence. Translation: someone specifically wanted Ronnie Doe dead. They planned his murder, and they executed that plan with precision and premeditation. Now, this is where we got to address how serious the situation really is and why the FBI got involved so quickly. The Federal Bureau doesn't get involved in every local murder case. They have specific criteria and jurisdiction requirements. They suspect interstate conspiracy, organized crime elements, or other federal crimes like murder for hire, which is exactly what the evidence suggests happened here. The real kicker, though, and what shows the sophistication of the federal investigation, is that agents have conducted wiretaps on the phone of Quell, described by sources as a close friend of Chrisean Rock, who would do anything for her. According to federal law enforcement sources, Quell is gang-affiliated from Baltimore, has connections to violent criminal organizations, and has been viewed as a #1 suspect besides Chrisean herself. When confronted about the investigation and the wiretapping, Quell's response was, "Let's say it didn't help his case at all." He went live on social media saying like this really crazy, like y'all want to speak to me about some I don't know about all because when I roll the block I smoke. But I like if y'all watching because y'all only doing this off YouTube. That's not the response of an innocent man, fam. That's the response of someone who knows they're caught and is trying to downplay their involvement. But here's where the story takes its most explosive and damaging turn for Kian's defense. Her own sister, Tiki, went on a podcast with Jason Lee and basically confirmed what many people suspected but couldn't prove, that Chrisean was directly involved in orchestrating Ronnie's murder. Her words were carefully chosen to avoid legal liability, but the message was crystal clear to anyone listening. When Jason Lee asked about Ronnie's death and the circumstances surrounding it, Taki's response was devastating. "I can't even speak on it, but from what if I was to speak on it, it don't look too good for certain people that we know. So, I'm not going to speak on it." When your own blood sister is saying publicly that it doesn't look good for you in a murder investigation, that's not just bad. That's absolutely damning. Toy's reluctance to speak and her careful word choice suggests she has detailed inside knowledge about Chrisean's involvement, but doesn't want to be the family member who sends her sister to prison for life. Her statement that "I can't even really speak on this because it's my family" indicates she knows specific details about the planning, the execution, or the cover-up that would be devastating if revealed publicly. What Teki essentially confirmed for federal investigators is that Ronnie was killed specifically and deliberately to prevent him from getting the DNA test that would have exposed Chrisean's lies about paternity. That's textbook premeditated murder with a clear, provable motive. Exactly the type of case that federal prosecutors love, because it's straightforward for juries to understand. Now let's talk about what happened just recently that's blown this whole case wide open and provided federal investigators with a final piece of evidence they needed to prove motive. Blueface finally took a legitimate court-admissible DNA test through proper legal channels, and the results confirmed exactly what Ronnie had been saying all along. Junior is definitively not Blueface's biological son. Blueface's reasoning for coming clean reveals something important about his character and possibly his legal strategy. He states he's concerned about his reputation as a father to his actual biological children. He doesn't want to be seen as an absent father when he's present for his real kids. But the timing of this admission coming after Ronnie's murder raises questions about whether this is genuine remorse or legal self-preservation. But here's what has federal investigators and legal experts asking serious questions. Why is he admitting this now? Why wait until after Ronnie is murdered and can't see the vindication he died fighting for? The timing seems awfully convenient for everyone except Junior and Ronnie's memory. And it may indicate that Blueface is cooperating with federal authorities in exchange for immunity from conspiracy charges. Let me break down for y'all exactly why the FBI believes they have a strong case that could result in life sentences for multiple defendants. Federal prosecutors don't take on cases unless they're confident they can win. And the evidence they're assembling against Chrisean and her alleged co-conspirators is comprehensive and damning. First, they have clear and overwhelming motive. Chrisean's entire income, career, and public identity was based on being Blueface's baby mama. Admitting Ronnie was the real father would have destroyed her brand, eliminated her earning potential, ended her relevance, and left her with no financial security. For someone who had built everything on this lie, that's a powerful motive for murder. Second, they have opportunity through her criminal association. Chrisean had direct connections to people willing and capable of committing violence, specifically Quell, who has gang affiliations and has been under federal surveillance. The phone taps suggest ongoing communication about criminal activities, providing the means to carry out the murder. Third, they have evidence of means through surveillance, phone records, and digital communications. The targeted nature of the murder, the knowledge of Ronnie's address and routine, and the timing just before his scheduled DNA test all suggest careful planning and coordination, exactly what federal conspiracy charges require. Fourth, Chrisean's own social media posts serve as potential admissions of guilt and evidence of her violent mindset. Statements like, "Everyone that thinks they can speak on my son always lose their life," can be interpreted by prosecutors as threats, admissions, or evidence of premeditation. Federal prosecutors love social media evidence because it comes directly from the defendant's own accounts. What makes this potentially a RICO case is if federal investigators can prove that Chrisean was operating as part of a criminal organization that used violence and intimidation to protect financial interests. If Quell and others were acting as her criminal associates in an ongoing enterprise, that elevates the charges significantly. At the end of the day, Junior is the biggest victim in this entire tragedy. His real father died fighting for the right to claim him and be acknowledged as his parent, while his mother allegedly orchestrated that murder to maintain a profitable lie about his identity. This child will grow up with the weight of knowing his father died. The FBI investigation is actively ongoing, and federal law enforcement sources suggest that additional arrests could be coming in the near future. Phone taps are producing evidence. Witness interviews are revealing insider information. And digital forensics are painting a picture of a coordinated criminal conspiracy to commit murder. Federal prosecutors are reportedly considering multiple charges, including conspiracy to commit murder, murder for hire, interstate conspiracy, potential RICO violations, and obstruction of justice. These are all federal crimes that carry life sentences, and the evidence appears strong enough to support convictions. This case represents a potential turning point for how we as a society handle the intersection of entertainment, social media, and criminal behavior. If there are serious legal consequences for turning real-life tragedy into profitable content, it might change how people approach these situations in the future. Fam, this case is bigger than just one murder or one family's dysfunction. It's about whether our society will hold people accountable for choosing violence over truth, profit over people, fame over family, and entertainment over human life. The FBI has the evidence. The motive is clear. The means are documented, and the community is watching for justice. What are your thoughts on the evidence against Chrisean Rock and her alleged co-conspirators? Do you think the FBI has enough evidence to secure convictions? Should Junior be told the truth about how his father died when he's older? How do we prevent this type of tragedy from happening again? Share your thoughts in the comments and click on the videos on screen for more coverage of this developing federal murder investigation.